What's up, guys? Carolina Jackpot coming at you on Sunday afternoon. It's about 5 o'clock, October 20th, 2019. I've had well over 24 hours to reflect on our loss yesterday to the Florida Gators in Williams-Brice Stadium, 38-27. And, you know, I can't come up with a whole lot there. I really can't. It's time to just go on ahead and acknowledge the fact that we're not as good of a football team as we thought we were going to be going into the season, and we're just not. It's just tough to admit that, but it's true. I mean, I've looked for a silver lining. I've tried to excuse it away here and there, but you know, yesterday's game was just a microcosm of what has happened this season. Now, we know the officiating in that game was absolutely disgraceful. There's no other way to put it. On both sides of the ball, though. On both sides of the ball. All the calls were not in Florida's favor. But on the bad calls, it was about 80-20 in Florida's favor. The 75-yard touchdown run by Pierce there in the third quarter was just with the holding by number 89, the Tyree Cleveland, the wide receiver who held our defensive back Israel Mukwamu. Just that was absolutely just disgusting that flag wasn't called. And then you have the idiots on the on commentary talking about, well, you know, they were kind of fighting for it, so it's really kind of good that it didn't get called. And then they show a damn replay of it, and they're like, well, I don't know how he missed that. How did you miss that? And our fans or friends, rather, in Facebook groups, on Twitter, where we all kind of go back and forth and trash talk. And I have Clemson fans that were watching that agreed that was BS. That was just the most ridiculous thing that they'd ever seen as well. So the referees definitely had a hand in that. It changed that play changed the momentum and the trajectory of the game. But the bottom line is, you can't blame it on that. You can't blame it on that because a truly good team would have found a way to rebound from that and not let it spoil our effort in the game. What happened? As soon as that was over, things tanked. There's a turnover down there by Ryan Helinski, a fumble deep in our own territory. Kyle Trask, all of a sudden, who's looked like an absolute garbage can for 3 quarters, just starts, lighting it up and looking great. In the fourth quarter, everything he throws seems to get caught, whereas the first 3 quarters, everything that he's throwing either sailed 10 feet over the receiver's head or hit him in the hands, and they just couldn't come up with catches. And he ended up with a decent day, 200 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. So solid performance, I guess. Everybody's on here, so you're not giving Kyle Trask enough credit for being. Well, he's not a good quarterback. I mean, he's not. He was your second option behind Felipe Franks. He gave you a little bit of a spark. People say, well, Kyle Trask has never played in a game in the rain before as a starter. Give me a break. What are we, 2? I mean, it rained, okay? So, just disappointed with the performance. We're missing something on this team. Muschamp talked about the team being the most talented that he's had since he's been at South Carolina, and it may be true. It may be true, but we just haven't been able to put it together this year. Losing our starting tight end, Keel Pollard, right before the season started was huge. It was huge. Keel was a solid player. He had good hands. He was a good down blocker. Just all around good player and good presence in the locker room as well. He'd been in the program for 4 years, so it was tough to lose him. Evan Henson, who was a backup at tight end, is also a player on the basketball team. We lost him before the season started. He never played it down. Irregular heartbeat, I think it was. They said he was going to have some surgery, that he'd be out maybe 3-4 weeks, but I mean, he ended up just stepping away from football altogether. I mean, kind of sad there. So we haven't had the best of luck with that. And honestly, guys, Yesterday's loss, I mean, it stings really bad. Number one, because, I mean, obviously I don't like Florida. It's my most disliked team on the South Carolina schedule, besides Clemson. And just because of the fan base and just some of the garbage trash talking that they do, and I mean they seem to pop up from out of nowhere whenever they start winning. But as soon as they have an idiot coach in there that comes in and screws things up, and they go 4-8, I mean they just disappear. I mean you can't find them anywhere. So yeah, that's my least favorite team in the SEC, like I said. But it also hurts because I mean. I know we are behind the 8 ball as far as wins and losses goes. Sitting here at 3-4, we have 3 winnable games in a row coming up. 3 games that should be wins. There's no reason why Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Appalachian State games should not be wins. I don't want to hear anything about how Vanderbilt beat Missouri yesterday. That was not. That Missouri team just didn't play well. That's all you can say. They didn't play well there in that spot, and I'll talk about them more in a second. But I think Vanderbilt is more the team that got blown out by Ole Miss and got blown out at home by UNLV. UNLV. Yeah, they didn't lose to Jerry Tarkanian and Stacey Augman's UNLV back. They lost to the UNLV football team, and they're sorry, okay? And they lost to them at home, and it was bad. It wasn't even close. So Vanderbilt is not Tennessee. I'll talk about them in a minute. App State, they're undefeated right now. Their schedule has been very light. I mean, obviously, it is the conference that they play in is not one of the stronger conferences. I've said several times in the past that I'd like to see App State move up to like the American Athletic Conference or something and see what they could do there. I think they'd be better suited there. I guess it's just Boone, North Carolina is just not a very big market or whatever. And then there's other sports that you have to consider too. You know, your baseball team, your basketball team, and all that. They have to be up to par as well as your facilities. I don't know that they have the facilities to join a bigger name conference right now or not. But App State is legit. But South Carolina should not have a problem beating them at home. I think it'll be a good game, and I think there'll be some scoring in it. I would say the over-under on that game, I would put it at about 70. I don't see us keeping them out of the end zone a lot, but I don't see their defense being able to slow South Carolina down, not on the level of a Florida or a Georgia defense. Anyway, it should be a good game. I plan on being there for that one. But those are 3 in a row that are must-wins, and we have to win them to go to a bowl game. You got Texas A&M coming up after the App State game. I have thought, in the back of my mind that could be a win, even though it's on the road. Texas A&M is not very good this year, and it's still an outside possibility. But the more and more I look at it, I think it's a no. I think the final score will end up being somewhat like yesterday's game was, where we would play well for 3 quarters or so, and then things kind of would fall apart. I just don't trust this team anymore. I just don't trust them anymore, point blank, to play 4 quarters and to put a solid game together. I just don't see it happening. It's on the road. It's against a team that we have a bad history with. So I don't like us in that spot. I'm not saying it's impossible, because Texas A&M, like I said, they're not very good. Not on Texas A&M standards anyway. They're mediocre, okay? And the Clemson game at the end of the year, I mean, we're not winning that game. I mean, we're just not. I expect it to be a competitive game. I expect it to be somewhat like last year's was. I think the Gamecocks will score a decent amount of points. I don't think we're going to get as many yards as we got last year. Maybe not get quite as many points, but I don't see us giving up as many points to them as we did last year either. I mean, honestly, right now, if I had to pick, I could see a 42-28 game, somewhere around that neighborhood. Trevor Lawrence is not the quarterback that he was last year. Thing is, he's throwing interceptions, but I still don't see teams getting to him a lot. and rattling him. He's just throwing bad balls. He's just kind of throwing it up there for those frisbee catching dog wide receivers, the T. Higgins, the Justin Ross, the Joe Nagata or whatever his name is, the freshman, to just go up and make these circus catches. And a lot of times they do. But a lot of times he's throwing bad interceptions, like the one against Louisville yesterday. The first one that got picked off, the kid catches it with two hands right in the middle of the end zone. It's just like he threw it right to him, like they were playing a game of catch in the backyard or something. So I don't know about him. I can see South Carolina's defensive line getting to him, but ultimately I think their running game is just too much, and that we'll end up losing that game. But, speaking of running games, this year, our running game, before the season started, everybody said Will Muschamp has got to be able to get a team to get a decent running game together. He's never had a good running game, whether he's been at South Carolina or he's been at Florida. His running game's always been below average, and actually in 2012, which was his best season as a head coach when he went 11-2 in the regular season, he actually had a player go over 1,000 yards for the season rushing. That's the only time it's happened since he's been a head coach, and we heard that criticism. Well, he goes out and gets Thomas Brown, the running back coach from Miami, and I mean, say what you want to about Miami, but they've had a pretty good running game the past few years, and our running game's legit this year. Tavian Feaster coming over from Clemson, he's having obviously the best season of his career. I mean, he's gonna get close to 1,000 yards this year. Rico Dowdle, I think, would get close to 1,000 yards, or would have a chance to. But he's been getting banged up and injured a lot. He got injured on the first play of the game yesterday, and we didn't see him again the rest of the afternoon. I don't know what's wrong with Rico. I hadn't seen an injury update on him. I'm going to check it out, though. I mean, I hope he's okay, because he's been a huge part of the season, and I'm glad to see Rico doing well this year. I mean, everybody's really been on his case pretty bad at South Carolina since he's been there about not having his heart 100% in the game, always being hurt, just a lot of stuff, and the kid's been through a lot, and I'm glad to see this year. And I think not only people are saying, Tavian Feaster being there has, pushed him to be better, and I believe that to some degree, but I think Thomas Brown, the running back coach, has pushed him also, and that's a big reason for his success. Coaching and just push from his teammates. So hopefully Rico will bounce back. I just there's something there just missing. Yesterday you could see it was missing the explosiveness. It's just not there. I mean, we're going Ryan Helinski. I love him. I think he's a great kid. But these passes he's throwing, and we get it, man. We get it that you can throw a beautiful deep ball. Love it. I love it. I bet you're like Uncle Rico. I bet you could throw it over them mountains right there. But we don't have to do that all the time. I mean, your routes with your receivers, the timing is just off between you and them. I mean, the balls are 3-4 yards in front of these guys. So, I mean, there's just a timing issue right there. If we could just fix that, we'd be good. I mean, we would be good. We would have won that game yesterday if that were fixed before the game yesterday. But because those guys, Shi Smith and Brian Edwards, both, they had burnt their defenders several times and were well out there where they could have made plays, but it just didn't happen after the first little razzle-dazzle flea flicker thing, which I really enjoyed seeing that one. That gave us a spark with that first touchdown there. Just not a lot of explosive plays, though, not in the passing game from after that. So thing is, we've developed a big boy run game now. Now it seems like our big boy passing game has kind of fell off. And you have to kind of attribute that to the loss of Jake Bentley. You do. He's another one that a lot of Gamecock fans have given a lot of shit to, myself included at times. Ryan Helinski, for what it is, Jake seemed to have a little bit of a better touch there of getting that ball to the receiver. Only problem with him was he threw the ball too many times in bad situations and cost us turnovers. Helinski's not costing us turnovers like he was. He's fumbled the ball a couple of times in bad situations. He did it really the Missouri one was just boneheaded, and it was just a kid and not thinking about what he was doing there. That the one yesterday really was costly down in the red zone, or put Florida right in the red zone, and ultimately led to a touchdown to I think Pitts or Javon Grimes or whatever their names are. I don't know. Don't want to see them anymore. But taking nothing away from Florida, I mean, I think they're a decent team. Their offense is not great. Their defense, it's pretty decent. I mean, their defense is pretty legit. I mean, it kept us from doing what we wanted to do yesterday. I can say that definitely. I think they'll probably end up in a New Year's Six bowl. They're not going to be in the college football playoff. Are they going to win the SEC East? Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think the chances that they do are pretty good. Georgia is... I've had a lot of Clemson fans back and forth with me on this one, too, talking trash about the Gamecocks win over Georgia, calling it's a fluke win. It's a fluke win. Beep, 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 beep. They can't stand the fact that South Carolina has actually beaten, a really highly ranked team, and if they have it. Well, they don't have the chance to, because they don't play anybody. We know how that story goes. Unless a few years ago they beat a couple of ranked ACC teams, which was just a farce. But more and more I think about it, I really don't think it was a fluke. I think it was just the fact that Georgia's is not that good. I mean, their offense is they're not explosive at all. Unless they're running the ball and, you can't stop that run, they're not able to do it. Jake Fromm didn't look good last night at all. Again, didn't look good in the South Carolina game last night. He didn't look good. He turned the ball over last night against Kentucky, but I mean, he played no better than he did against South Carolina. And Kentucky could have beaten them, but they just didn't have as Uncle Lou says, the Jimmies or the Joes to keep up with Georgia. And a week ago, South Carolina on that day had the Jimmies and the Joes to keep up. But they're not that good. And so I could see Florida going down there. They have a bye week. I could see them beating them in Jacksonville. And I'm not sure where their game against Missouri is, but I could see them beating them definitely. That's a team, and that's what's really disappointing about this Florida loss. And I posted this yesterday up in the Gamecock room, and it's true. If we had just beaten a couple of the teams this year that we should have beaten, if we had won the games that we should have won against teams that we should have beaten, this Florida loss wouldn't be as devastating as what it really is right now. The UNC loss was totally despicable. That was ridiculous. That was coaching. That was poor game management. That was poor execution. That was poor defensive execution, especially in the fourth quarter. It was poor quarterback play. It was poor a lot of things. It was an inexcusable, embarrassing loss. That's what it was. The Missouri game, an embarrassing loss also. That was, Ryan Helinski, that was the one where he really didn't even need to be playing in that game. He was noodle-armed because his arm was hurt. His elbow was all messed up from that Alabama game. He shouldn't have been playing in that situation. Dak Joyner should have been out there as the quarterback in that one. We should have just rolled our dice with him and let the chips fall where they may. I guarantee you that it would have been a much closer game because Ryan just wasn't himself in that game. We had the fumble or whatever it was, the batted down pass that he touched, and Cale Garrett takes into the end zone for a touchdown. You had the 100-yard pick six that was just, I have to think that a healthy Helinski doesn't make those mistakes. He doesn't make the 100-yard pick six mistake anyway. The other one, who knows? That decision, maybe it wouldn't have ever come to that if he'd have been healthy and able to have some zip on the ball. But Missouri was a very beatable team, and I was very aggravated and upset after that loss, and it bore itself out yesterday. And despite the fact that I picked them to cover the spread in that game because of just how bad Vanderbilt really is, what do? They go out there and lose to them. They go to Nashville and lose to stinking Vanderbilt. They lose to stinking Vanderbilt yesterday. So, yeah, they're not that good. They were definitely beatable. I knew they were beatable. They lost to Wyoming. So those were games that we should have won, and that's that. I mean, I'm not going to say anything else about it. We're 3-4 right now. The record should be 5-2. We should be sitting here with losses to Florida and Alabama, quite honestly, and the rest of them should have been wins. But, I'm not going to go there anymore. I've already beat that horse enough times, and it's long been dead. Going forward, the Tennessee game Saturday in Neyland Stadium, I'm going to talk a little bit of trash this week because I feel very confident about this team going to Tennessee and being able to get a win. Last night's game against Alabama, yeah, you played good. I mean, you had some heart out there. You showed some moxie there and kept the game close. But, I mean, quite frankly, Alabama didn't play well at all last night. I mean, they were not I had thought that the reason I picked them to cover the spread, got some indigestion. I had Zaxby's earlier and it's repeating on me, so I apologize for that. I had picked Tennessee to cover the spread, and then I changed my mind back, and then I changed my mind back, and I ended up settling on Alabama because I just figured that they were going to be looking for some style points because of, playoff implications and stuff like that, because we got a lot of undefeated teams right now. Well, we got one less right now. That was a rough loss for Wisconsin yesterday. But, I mean, it's what happens. You overlook somebody and you don't come to play, I guess. But I figured some style points would be in order in the game against Tennessee, and it just didn't happen. They couldn't get on track. And to Tennessee's credit, I mean, they played well, for what they are. But there was no way that they're just some bad – I think they've just got a bad culture right now. That coach, let's call it like it is. He sucks. He just does. And I know I've given Will Muschamp a hard time. And it's not inconceivable he could go up there and lose to the sucky coach, Jeremy Pruitt. But, this guy, he's just he's just an ass. He's an ass. That's all you can say about him. He comes across as this good old boy and this and that with this country bumpkin attitude, just shucks, kind of like Dabo in his press conferences and stuff. But his actions don't speak that way. He's like one of their kids got arrested a few weeks ago on campus because he had an outstanding warrant or something, and then the kid lets him talk to the police officer that's arrested him, and he asks him, why do you have to take him in because of that? Well, yeah, that's what a warrant is, Jeremiah. And then he's playing a kid who had a concussion last week. Sure, the medical staff probably would have cleared him to play, but really, I wouldn't have risked that kid's health like that. After his bell's been rung and he's had a concussion, depending if it was severe, there's no way that I'm letting him play that game against Alabama because, you're not going to win it anyway. You're not going to win it anyway. So why risk that? And he goes out and he gets hurt again last night. He had a concussion again last night. So he better watch himself. That's some serious shit right there. That's just something you don't play with. Somebody's health, especially with those kind of injuries, that can just alter a person's life forever. So we don't need to see that happen. But he don't approach me as being all that smart as a head coach. So I think that we actually have the coaching advantage for one time when we go up there to Knoxville. The atmosphere up there is not what it used to be. This is no longer the vaunted rocking 100 and whatever thousand fans up there. They'll be lucky to get 100,000 in there for the South Carolina game. It's at 4 o'clock on the SEC network. That's because of ESPN and all these. They don't want to come there anymore. It's just not the best atmosphere in the world. So I think that South Carolina goes up there and we get a win. I don't think we're going to blow them out, but I think we get a win by 10 points or so. Now, we have played games against them the past few years where they had terrible teams last year and the year before is what I'm referring to, and we just barely eked out wins. Last year, 27-20 at home, which we had to come back in the fourth quarter. We were down 20-9 at one point in that game, and then in 2017, we won up there, I want to say 15-14. No, 15-9. 15-9 was what it was, where Guantanamo was a freshman, and he had a pass batted down in the end zone, which they had the ball on their own 20-yard line with like 32 seconds left in the game, and we're able to get down inside our 5, but just because of our soft vanilla front there. I mean, it's just pathetic. That one made me so mad that we almost ended up losing that thing to Butch Jones, but we didn't. So I can see that, too, as a reason why the line on it right now is only Carolina favored by 4.5 points, but I think we win that one by significantly more than that. So there's still hope. There's still hope to end up finishing strong, at least win 3 out of the last 5 and make a bowl game. If we could pull off 4 or 5 and beat Texas A&M, and end up winning 7 games for the year, it would be absolutely marvelous. But I'm not hanging my hat on that happening. One thing I do want to mention, though, before I get out of here, yesterday's game, it's sad that we're not filling that stadium up. We're not filling that stadium up anymore. And myself, you can look and say, well, Carolina jackpot, you didn't go. No, I didn't. I'm in a position where I have to work on Saturdays for the most part, and I can only get to maybe 1, maybe 2 games a year, and this is not one that I chose to attend, and I just can't because of the way my schedule was. But I did get off and end up watching most of this game, and I can tell you that that stadium should be full. It should be full or near capacity, especially when you're playing a team that is ranked inside the top 10 at home. It just should. Did it rain yesterday? Yeah, it rained. So it rained, jackpot, and the fairs in town, and those are all excuses. Those are all crappy excuses. There's plenty of y'all out there who don't work on Saturday or Sunday that could be able to get to those games. And it's just disappointing to see, all those empty seats up there in the upper end zone part. It just is. I know it rained, okay? I know it. It rained. Okay, well, it wasn't raining in 30 degrees. And it wasn't a driving rainstorm. You won't melt if you sit out in it, okay? I sat out and got rained on at many ball games and got soaking wet and had a thoroughly wonderful time doing so. If you want to look back just a few years ago, Clemson played Notre Dame in prime time at Death Valley over there. They sold it out. There wasn't a seat to be had, and it was a monsoon. I'm talking about there had been a hurricane that hit South Carolina, Hurricane Matthew, I think it was, in 2015. Columbia was like 6 feet underwater. Well, they moved the LSU game to LSU. It was so bad. They sold it out. Why couldn't we fill that place up? I want to see the place full again and rocking for a game other than Clemson. So there's that. And another thing, y'all are going to these games. Those of you students down there, y'all need to stop throwing stuff on the field. I know I get a little bit passionate and carried away with these games at home here, and I've gotten mad. I've broken several remote controls. I've stomped around a lot. I never broke a TV yet or anything like that, but that's because I ain't that dumb. But throwing water bottles and things on the field when you're out here in public, so you've got to maintain a little bit better of a decorum than you could that if you were in your own home or apartment. Or mobile home, or regular home like this one. or your tent or wherever you're choosing to watch football. You're in your car. You can act however you want to, but you're at a public venue around other people, booing, name calling, whatever. That's about as far as it needs to go. You don't need to fling objects on the field. You just don't. We need to be better than that. I mean, it's trashy. It's low class. It shows a low level of intelligence. It shows no intelligence, quite frankly. It's redneck and it's stupid. And you're trashing your own stadium. You're trashing your own hallowed grounds over there at Willie B. Your own stadium, part of your university. You don't need to do that. It's a bad look. It's picked up on national TV. Everybody sees it. I get the referee calls were garbage. But, that's no excuse. That officiating crew was horrible. I get that. The older gentleman who was the head of the officiating crew, I guess, he needs to just go on ahead and take a package and retire or something, or find another line of work, because, he's quite frankly sucks. But that still was no excuse for that. Coach Muschamp blowing up on the sideline, that was about as far as it needs to go. And I was actually kind of glad to see him do it, to be honest with you. He showed some passion, if nothing else. And, we saw the foam coming out of his mouth. We saw him grit his teeth. We saw the glasses get a little bit cockeyed. So that was good stuff there. That was some good stuff. It was entertaining. He got a flag, but he'll talk in his press conference about it, too, where he got that flag. And he talks in there. You want to watch it. It's on the South Carolina Gamecocks YouTube channel. I'm not exactly sure what the account's called. But he talks about that play when a reporter from the state asked him about the flag. And he talks about that it was a gutless call for that referee to go 40 yards down the field from him and then throw the unsportsmanlike flag on him. And it is. Him being passionate like that and getting a flag is akin to a baseball manager getting a warning or getting tossed out of a game. Those umpires don't walk, half the field away from him and then throw him out of the game. From wherever I've seen, they get right up in your face and throw you out of the game. Maybe we need to bring a little baseball to the gridiron here in the Southeastern Conference, because your officiating definitely has something or leaves something to be desired. I kind of always got agitated looking at the TJ LSU Dud channel, because he always whines about the SEC officiating, the Bama bias, this, that, and the other. But you know what? Dude's kind of got a point, because I saw it full circle yesterday. And I saw it full circle in that Bama game as well. There were some crappy calls in that game that went against us, but nowhere near the level of what we saw yesterday. So, I'm calling it right now. We're winning 3 out of our last 5 games. We're going to finish the season up 6-6, and maybe we'll go to the Independence Bowl again. Who knows? Maybe they'll elevate us to the Liberty Bowl or something this time. I don't know. Maybe we'll get to go to Memphis. I hear it's nice in December or early January. Don't want to go back to Birmingham again. Place is a dump. I'd just as soon not go to a bowl and stay home and just keep 6-6 record. That way you don't have to say you get a losing record if you lose the game to whoever the foe from the AAC would be. So that's it. Always Spurs up to my toes up. Let's go Gamecocks. Everybody make sure that you check out the recap of the pick and predictions. I'm going to upload that here in just a little bit and see how old buddy Carolina Jackpot did against the Las Vegas numbers this week. All right, I'll see y'all later. Spurs up to my toes up, baby. Woo! Go Cox.